Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, part one. Let's preview it.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Liscow. He's your host, James Rapien. We come to you today on this fine December day. A little bit of sun outside here where I live, James, and we're going to talk keys to the game as Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert will face each other for their first time in the NFL. And that is the primary storyline of this game. When you look at it from a 10,000 foot view, it's two young ascending quarterbacks from the same draft class, two guys that were rookie of the year candidates before one of them got hurt last year, and one guy that was crowned, like it or not, Bengals fans, Justin Herbert has been crowned by many as the next great thing in NFL quarterbacking. And so that is absolutely, I think, where the storyline starts, James. But despite all of that, the way the Bengals have been playing football lately, and when you look at the matchups of this game, I'm not sure it's the right Joe we're talking about on this offense. That being said, let's start with the Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be about it regardless, right? Even if Joe Mixon runs for $150 and the Bengals win and Herbert throws for 400 and Joe Burrow has a third straight game of under 200 yards passing, I think it'll be who wins. And that person gets the bragging rights, for better or worse. That being said, I don't know. To me, and I've talked to multiple, coaches and players this week, and I get it. The Chargers last in the NFL against the run. At the same time, are they that bad of a defense? Like, are they going to just steamroll them and be able to do that? I don't know. And so if they can, great, because it keeps Herbert on the sideline and prevents him from doing the next big thing type of things. If he is indeed that, and certainly physically he looks the part there. At the same time, you better believe Joe Burrow's up for this game, because earlier this week he talked about, I was never supposed to be the number one pick. It was supposed to be Justin Herbert. And he knows that he's going to have to continue to prove himself, and that people are going to, like you said, be quick to crown Justin Herbert. So can you imagine losing to Justin Herbert, Joe? Then they're going to instantly say that Herbert is the number one quarterback in this draft class. And a lot of people, as you mentioned, already do.
And, that's probably not fair yet. We don't know really.
No, we don't.
How these guys' careers are going to go yet. They've both had their ups and their downs. Joe Burrow, if you go by PFF grades, a little bit higher graded than Justin Herbert, has thrown the ball like 100 less times than Justin Herbert this year. 100 less times, and has a similar number of touchdowns and a similar number of interceptions, which tells you something, right? 100 less attempts, similar interceptions and touchdowns. The big difference is Burrow's yards per attempt, about a yard better than Justin Herbert. Talked about that a little bit in the crossover episode yesterday. The Chargers doing a lot of quick passing game this year, not as many shot plays. And the Bengals have kind of gotten away from success on shot plays lately too, but that the case or not, they're finding yards per attempt, even if they're not targeting the ball deep downfield, because they're getting guys in space in the short game as well. So it will be very interesting to see the balance of passing versus running in this game for the Bengals. And I think that's the first key to the game is, can the Bengals make it two Joes versus one Justin? Can Joe Mixon do enough in this game that Burrow doesn't have to do everything? Because we talked about, how bad the Chargers rushing defense is. They've given up more than 100 yards, more than the second worst rush defense in the NFL, which is the Houston Texans, by the way. So they're worse at defending the run than one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're worse at defending the run than the Detroit Lions, who have not won any games, who teams have been running against to close out games all year. 145 yards a game. That's a lot. But, and I think I mentioned this, fifth best passing defense by yards in the NFL. And where does that come from, right? That comes from Joey Bosa being a good pass rusher,
Mhm.
Uche Nwosu being an okay pass rusher on the other side, Derwin James and Nasir Adderley being a nice safety tandem. But their corners, I think, leave something to be desired. So you like the Bengals there. And the opportunity to run the ball and keep Herbert on the sideline and keep this defense on its heels and not let them do what they want to do. That to me, it's going to unlock so much in this game. We've talked about game script game all week, and I'm going to reiterate it today. I think game script is huge in this game. Get off to a hot start again. Don't throw a pick six on the first drive, and you can look like you've looked the last 2 weeks instead of the way you looked against the Cleveland Browns. And the one other thing that you said that I wanted to comment on, you talked about Joe Burrow saying he was never supposed to be the number one pick. He also said that he had a goal to be the rookie of the year last year, and that was taken away from him. So if he needed any more motivation, he's going against last year's rookie of the year in Justin Herbert.
Yeah. And look, I agree with you. In a perfect world, that'll be it. You'll get the run game going. You'll set up some play action. Joe Burrow will throw it 25 times and you'll hit on a couple explosives, but it will be the Joe Mixon show. That would be ideal because then you're putting your defense in a position to succeed against the most talented offense potentially they've seen this year. You could put the Packers in that category. You put, a couple teams there, but arguably, I think it's arguable that the Chargers are, especially when you look at their skill guys. So with that said, I agree with you. That's ideal. But this Bengals team, assuming this is when we get into the offensive line and health of Riley Reef and all of that stuff, I think they're talented enough to win a shootout. Like I don't want to come across as, especially to the new listeners, and I know you don't mean it like this, but this isn't Joe Mayfield. Joe Burrow could throw for 450 on the Chargers on Sunday, and the Bengals are comfortable playing that way, and they don't really, honestly, I don't think they really give a damn where either ranking is. It's how the game plays out. So yeah, if they get behind, I don't think this is a Myles Garrett's on one side, Jadeveon Clowney's on the other, and Denzel Ward is on our best wide receiver, and it's going to be really tough for the Bengals to come back. Of course, you always want to get off to a hot start, but I don't think it's that bad of a matchup for them. And that if they need to throw it, if they need to play catch up, and you don't want a Jacksonville situation where you're down 14-0, potentially 21-0 halfway through the game. I think they're capable of doing that. I think that this isn't the Browns where they're going to be able to run the ball at you a ton, put heat on Burrow. Yeah, they might put some on, especially if Reef is out. But even with that said, I think that the Bengals match up well enough that they'll be able to move the ball down the field and push the ball if they need to.
Yeah, I think that that's possible. I don't know about pushing the ball downfield necessarily. I don't know if those opportunities will be there. I think that's going to depend a lot on how the running game goes early and if Brandon Staley makes those adjustments, right? Because Brandon Staley, his whole thing, like literally his entire brand is we're going to play too high and you're not going to beat us deep. And he got his job because he was able to take away the explosives from guys like Patrick Mahomes. And if you can do that to Patrick Mahomes and that kind of offense, and you're selling out to do it, or maybe not selling out isn't quite the words, but you're designing your defense to do that could make it hard. So I do think that will be very context dependent. But what you said, James, that stood out to me there that I really agree with is the Bengals can take and attack the way they want right now because enough things are working in enough areas that they can do what they were criticized for early in the season, and they can build off of each part of the offense, right? If they're running the ball well early, they can build off of that and find the passes they need and be efficient in the passing game like they were last week in a very complete, dominating win over the Pittsburgh Steelers as they look to carry that momentum forward. And you're also right that I think this is probably the best offense the defense has faced. So maybe we need to talk a little bit about some of the defensive keys to the game as well. And maybe we go there coming up next.
But first, I got to tell you about Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. You listen to this podcast, you know I'm all about saving money. With Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to all the latest episodes of Locked On Bengals, whether it's Spotify, and shout out to everybody that has send us your Spotify Wraps or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening or watching us. The power of 3 unlimited data lines, by the way, on Boost Mobile for $30 a month per line, so your family can harness all that brain power too and watch Locked On Bengals as well as listen to us wherever you go. And it's one of the America's largest 5G networks. So you're going to have quick speed. It's going to be efficient. Switch to Boost Mobile and find out not only are you going to save money, but you're going to get great service as well. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile. Free phone is limited to new customers, 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers coverage not available everywhere or for all phones or networks. See boostmobile.com for details.
This episode of Locked On Bengals also brought to you by our favorite protein bar on the planet. That's Built Bar. James's favorite, my favorite, had a coconut brownie chunk today. That was my breakfast. You get the best of both worlds with Built Bar. Delicious and healthy. And not only that, right now at builtbar.com, they've got more flavors, I think, going on their website for the holiday season than I've ever seen before, including some puffs. If you haven't tried the puffs, some of the puffs are really good. It's like a chocolate covered marshmallow, but it's a protein chocolate covered marshmallow, which is kind of a ridiculous thing to think about. But whether it's raspberry, mint brownie, cherry, double chocolate, they've got a flavor you'll love. The coconut brownie chunk for sale right now, by the way, or the blueberry that James is eating if you're watching on YouTube. Built Bar will give you the extra fuel you need this holiday season. So go check it all out at built.com. Promo code LOCK15 will save you 15% off your order at built.com. Promo code LOCK15. James, we've talked about game script. You got a mouthful of Built Bar over there, so I'll talk for a little bit
No,
here.
I'm happy. We're good.
You're ready to go.
Talk
James
through
is
this. Let's go.
a professional Built Bar eater, obviously. They stick in my mouth a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little time to process the protein, but they are
I'm good.
fantastic. So we talk game script.
Mhm.
Who do you think the best pass rushers to have in the NFL are when you're winning a game and the other team is drop back passing? Like statistically, in terms of productivity, who do you think those guys are?
I'm going to pretend I didn't see your tweet and answer this, the way I would have if I hadn't seen the tweet. So I would have started with like Myles Garrett. I would have said Max Crosby. I would have, I'm trying to think, but maybe maybe you do throw out, a Bosa, Joey Bosa, guys like that. And I'm probably missing one or two, but I know the answer. So without further ado, let's give our listeners the answer.
Yeah, I think Joey Bosa jumps to mind for a lot of people. Some of the people answering thought Joey Bosa. And since it's me asking the question, everyone's like, oh, yeah, one of those is Hendrickson, which it is. But the other one is Myles Garrett. The two top guys when PFF looks at pass rushing grade and productivity and win rate in pure passing situations where there's no play action, it's not a screen, are one Myles Garrett, who has like 100 more opportunities at this, by the way, and two, Trey Hendrickson. Those two guys on a rate basis, on an overall productivity basis, are the best pass rushers so far this year in pure pass sets. So you throw out play action, you throw out screens, all this stuff. If the Bengals get the Chargers in a drop back passing mode, you take away the run game, you're up 14, you're up 10 points or something. It's the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Trey Hendrickson is a weapon. And we've really started to give a lot of love to these guys as the season has gone on, specifically Trey Hendrickson, as he continues to somehow get a sack a game, more than a sack a game, depending on how you measure sacks. And it's a great matchup over there this week with Rashawn Slater, the Chargers rookie, who's playing at a very high level. Talked about that a little bit in the crossover yesterday, but the Bengals also have had their issues. I mentioned the Browns game when they become a drop back passing team. And if Riley Reif can't go this week, or he's, noticeably affected by his injury, by his ankle injury against Joey Bosa, you really don't want to be a drop back passing team. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals on offense, you want to be able to continue to hand the ball off to Joe Mixon, to use the play action boot game when they start selling out to stop your run. So to me, we talk game script for offense and Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow and all this stuff. I think it matters just as much for the defense where, yeah, Justin Herbert can make all the throws, but when you can make a team one dimensional, the Bengals have a weapon now in Trey
Mhm.
Hendrickson that can make life difficult for the other team.
And they forced a bunch of turnovers the past couple of weeks, and that there's such a ripple effect with that. And I can't help, as you mentioned, that game script, Trey Hendrickson getting pressure, to think about Jesse Bates. And I tweeted out a couple clips of him and posted them on my YouTube, where he referred to Justin Herbert as a kid about 12 times, it felt like. And look, there's like a 2-year age difference, and he doesn't mean it to be insulting, but what I think is he sees all the potential Herbert has, but he still gets confused at times. And there's still, and again, I'm reading through things and totally just assuming that's the case. But I think that Herbert's going to give you some opportunities, especially, deep downfield if you're getting pressure on him and you have a lead early. So I agree with you. And that's the part of it. I don't know if Burrow needs the script that way, but boy, what a luxury it would be for the defense to have a lead, to put pressure on Herbert, and to really know what they're dealing, be able to put Bates back, and he'll probably be back there anyway, but put these guys in a position to do what they do really, really well. And obviously Hendrickson can get after the passer, and who knows, 10.5 sacks right now. Maybe he can get to that 15 mark. Can you imagine if he gets to 15? I think the over under, by the way, from BetOnline was 14.5 for the year this week. So, can he get, 5 in break that? We'll see. But, or 4.5, I guess. Yeah. Good math, James. But either way, it would be good. But no, I agree with you. I think that the game script will matter there, because Herbert could maybe, just maybe, give up a few balls, a few turnover worthy plays. But the other thing is, I don't want them to be able to run it with Eckler, and not just Eckler, their running backs. I don't even want to think about that. Trying to stop Austin Eckler from catching the ball, it sounds like my nightmare. I think it just sounds like, and Logan Wilson didn't really say much on Thursday when I asked about it, but that is what nightmares are made of. I would much rather deal with anybody else, I think, on the field, including Keenan Allen, than a guy like that that's so damn shifty, that is just so small, and then he could find a crease and then boom, home run. It's just, I would not want to face Austin Eckler. So that's, if you're not having to worry about the run as much, then you can focus more so on the pass and more so on Eckler and all these weapons on offense.
And when you compare the Chargers to the teams where the Bengals have struggled in run defense this year, which is really mostly just the Cleveland game, and they've given up some rush yards outside of that, but it was really against Cleveland. I don't necessarily see the similarities. Matt Filer looks like he might be back this week at left guard, and that's actually a big deal, I think, because the guy they have playing left guard is bad, and it puts a big hole on that offensive line between Slater and Corey Linsley, who are both really good, right? And if they fix left guard and Filer's back and he's like an average player, now they're okay on one side and they can dedicate their efforts to, okay, we need to give a little bit of help on the right side where they also have backups playing. And it makes it a little bit easier for the Chargers to deal with some of that stuff. But in the run game, I remain, I think, very confident in the way the Bengals defend the run. And we talked about it in the crossover. It starts with the front. It starts with DJ Reader. I think he's the key piece that glues this defense together. He's an under-heralded, under-praised, I don't know if he's underrated. I think he is underrated, actually. Underrated player on this team who is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, period. And he's certainly not getting that recognition. I think he's an easy Pro Bowler in the AFC. It's not like he's doing it like Geno did, where he's getting the sacks and being the disruptor in the backfield, but he is pushing the pocket, which helps these pass rushers on the outside. And he's just been like so consistently incredible in run defense and doing his job in the run game. I don't see, I mean, the Corey Linsley DJ Reader matchup could be really fun to watch, but I don't see the Chargers as a super dangerous matchup for this Bengals rushing defense, but we'll see. There are a lot of factors in this game. I think I told you, James, before we started that I see matchups on both sides of the ball. that are a little bit scary. And maybe we'll talk about some of those to finish up the show before we get to James's prediction.
Oh, my prediction. I'm sure you have a prediction for Sunday's game. Well, you might as well make a little money while you give it. And BetOnline has you covered all season long. Prop bets, whether it's Jamar Chase's Offensive Rookie of the Year odds, Joe Burrow for Comeback Player of the Year, or the Bengals handling the Chargers their 6th loss of the season. You can get all of that in one spot and wager on all of those things at betonline.ag. And right now, not only are you going to be able to use their updated desktop or use their mobile website, but you're also going to be able to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code Locked On. So whether it's betting on my Golden State Warriors, and yeah, I said it, my Warriors, because I love a little Steph Curry, or maybe it's the college football playoff odds, all of that and so much more, one spot, betonline.ag. Make sure you use that promo code Locked On. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports.
James, I mentioned some scary matchups in this game. There's a reason the Chargers offense is the number 3 offense, or was the number 3 offense in DVOA going into their game last week against the Broncos, where they had their issues. And Justin Herbert had his issues, and Vic Fangio's defense in Denver reminded everybody, hey, I'm a Vic Fangio defense playing at a mile of altitude. The Bengals will have to deal with that later this year. That being said, Justin Herbert's still really good. They've got their left tackle who, maybe this is a game Hendrickson is going against the best left tackle he's faced all year. And he's going to have to go against Trent Williams next week, right? And so maybe there's a little bit of a scary stretch coming up if we're projecting, a worst case scenario for Trey Hendrickson. So maybe these wide receivers turn Eli Apple into a pumpkin. And the horse-drawn carriage we've seen the last couple of weeks getting interceptions.
Oh my God.
Disappear. So there's like a worst case here. I'm not saying all this is going to happen because people in the YouTube comments, I can already see them in my brain. You guys think Jake is too negative about the Bengals? Well, I'm just painting a worst case scenario here. We've talked about all the ways the Bengals can win. I'm just saying Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Corey Linsley, Slater, Eckler, these guys present problems. And I do think this is one of the best offenses this team has faced this year. And now they do have some injuries to deal with, and the defensive line can make noise and do its thing. And the defense can try to impose its will again. Certainly. Mm-hmm. But there's some things that are scary here. And like Eckler on the linebackers is one, and going after Eli Apple, which a lot of teams have tried to do lately to varying degrees of success, is the other one. That those two things kind of scare me looking at this out the gate.
Yeah. So first thing you said, apple into a pumpkin. I would have said applesauce. Turns him into applesauce. That would have been funny. But I have bad jokes on the podcast. You usually don't. And
no, we both do.
It's fair. But just saying, applesauce, missed opportunity. That being said, I agree with you. I think bold prediction, and I'm just guessing. I'm not reporting it or anything. I think Chidobe Awuzie probably. I would not be shocked if he followed Mike Williams. And then they just kind of let Keenan do his thing because they move him around some, and they just try to make sure Apple isn't on an island with Keenan when that's there. And, you're going to have Mike Hilton anyways, and you're going to have to deal with that. So that's part of it. But yeah, my scary one, I agree with you. That's concerning. 2, no, this is a good test for Trey Hendrickson because he should beat the rookie. As good as he is, right? If he's that, you'd expect him to have a trick or two in his bag to get by him on crucial situations and make a game-changing play. And game script could have part of that. But again, the scariest matchup to me, two of them. There's an underrated one, and then there's a really scary one. Austin Eckler versus anybody. Maybe I'm overrating him. I think the dude's a beast. I just think he's if I had to pick right now a better pass catching back in the game, I don't know if there is one. Christian McCaffrey's played 8 games the past couple of years. Alvin Kamara's been injured. I know everybody worries about Austin Eckler's injuries, but he's a freak. And so I think he's a really tough threat out of the backfield. And then the other thing is Jared Cook is kind of overlooked now. And I know he's really, really old, but he's a big-bodied guy that can be really good in the red zone. And not a scary matchup. I'm not scared of him. But I think it's one of those where you could do everything right, and then Herbert throws a 30-yard dart to 87 for a touchdown, and you're like, what the hell just happened? And And so that's going to be the importance of Hendrickson and other guys getting pressure and making Herbert uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I do wonder. You kind of look at who is Rashawn Slater faced this year. Is Trey Hendrickson going to be the best pass rusher he's gone
Oh,
against this year? I think there's a legitimate question there. He's faced Yannick Ngakoue and the Raiders. I think that Trey Hendrickson is a better pure pass rusher than Yannick Ngakoue. He faced the Browns, so that was Jadavion. Or no, he actually did face Myles Garrett. So there's a really good
how'd he do?
competitor there.
I don't have it up. Did you do okay?
Well, that was a 42-47 game. So I would say both offenses did pretty well. Myles Garrett had a sack and a tackle for loss in that game, just looking at the very basic box score
Yeah.
on
Okay.
ESPN.com.
You would take that if you're Rashawn Slater, I think, going into that game.
Yeah, and they faced the Patriots, and I know the Patriots have had some success on the edges this year.
Matt
The
Judon. Yeah.
Broncos traded, Matt Judon. The Broncos traded Von Miller, so he's not there, but they still have Chubb and
Bradley Chubb just came back, so they might have
okay,
missed him.
yeah. So maybe not, maybe, but it's going to be an interesting battle. That
Mhm.
one, and then just obviously the ones when the Bengals offense is on the field is Bosa, Derwin James. Know where those guys are. Have a plan for
Yep.
those guys. Attack elsewhere. Attack the weaknesses because the Bengals. Well, for one, the Bengals have done a really good job of going after weaknesses lately. You saw 42 get picked on. I still won't say his name. On James Pierre, I guess I'll say his name.
Yeah,
I'll
stop
put some
being
respect out
mean.
there.
His name's James. Yeah, put a little respect on
Yeah,
him.
but he's a Steeler. So they've done a good job of isolating weaknesses, going after them. Alex Highsmith in the run game last week, 42
Yeah.
Pierre in the passing game, and so can they do that again on offense and have a good strategy? They had a good plan for T.J. Watt last week. Have a good plan for Joey Bosa again this week. Have a good plan for Minka. Have a good plan for Derwin James. They're different players. They're both playmakers. They both play safety. So it's a lot more complicated than that, but those are the obvious keys for the offense, right? If they want to execute consistently against a defense that has some clear weaknesses.
And I think they're set up for that. So let's just go nightmare scenario. Riley Reef doesn't play. Isaiah Prince makes a start at right tackle. And it's just like, oh my God, Joey Bosa versus Isaiah Prince. It's going to be a field day. And Bosa is going to think that. And there's going to be a lot of analysts that say that. Or if Riley Reef is just hobbled and not 100%, well, you're going to have to give him help. You're going to have to give Prince help. So if he's not 100%, especially, but you probably will anyways, right? But the Bengals are built, and this is the fun part to me. They have a quarterback that excels pre-snap, that most of the time gets it right, that they trust to make the right diagnosis, the right decision with the ball. They have weapons all over the field. So if Derwin James is, in the box the whole time and they're slowing down the rushing attack, well, then they should be able to do something with Boyd or Higgins or Chase. And Burrow is patient enough. We've seen it the past couple of weeks where he's not going to force it downfield unless they have a big lead, and then he tends to. So to me, this offense, and you said it earlier in the podcast, like they should move the ball. They should be able to. And, we'll see injury wise. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and everything like that. We'll keep you up to date about the injuries, but they should be able to do that. And if they do that, this should be a game. This should be an entertaining game. This should be one where they're very much in it. And I don't know how many national personalities that were analyzing this matchup before the season would have said that. I think a lot of people were picking the Chargers in this game, picking the Chargers to make it potentially a deep playoff run. And now the Bengals, when you look at them on paper, I think they're very similar talent-wise and better in certain areas. I think their skill players are probably, it's real close, right? And their quarterbacks are similar. And in the defense, they have bigger star power over there, but are the Bengals more complete? And so, yeah, this it should be a close game for sure.
Yeah, I think that I could see this one going either way. I've had some pretty strong feelings the last couple weeks that I thought the Bengals had a pretty good chance at coming out of those games victorious, and a little bit closer on the Raiders and the Steelers probably. But it's been a while since I had that Browns game feeling where I didn't have a great feeling going into that one. That's not there this week, but it's very easy to see this game going in a number of directions. And it's very easy to see big swing plays having a massive impact on this game. and seeing the Bengals defense not able to quite do as well in stifling their opposition. But if they do, if this is like the Ravens game, which was a bit of a surprise to both of us, where they
Mhm.
somehow do stop an offense that we expected to be able to move the ball at least against the Bengals, and then it could be a really fun Sunday for Bengals fans, James. But let's go predictions. The Bengals slight favorites in this one, 3-point home favorites, and I think
Mhm.
minus 160 or something like that straight up. Where are you as you're looking ahead and doing your prediction for Sunday?
You're right. The defense isn't going to be as good. And look, I'm not criticizing the defense. They shouldn't be as good, honestly, on paper going into a matchup like this. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the Bengals are going to win both ways. And I get it, the too high, everything like that, Brandon Staley. I think it'll be mixing early. And then I think they're going to need some bigger plays. And maybe it's not, 40 yards through the air to Jamar Chase, but I think Jamar Chase gets loose for a big play or two. And it's going to be a close one because why wouldn't it be? Burrow, Herbert, round one. It's going to be a shootout. In 20 years, we're going to be talking about how crazy all of their matchups were in the playoffs. But in this one, Joey B and the Bengals get it done as I try to get to 500. I'm 5-6. I'm close. Damn it. I can taste it like I'm about to taste this Built Bar when we go off the air here because I got about half of it left. Give me the Bengals 38, the Chargers 34 in a fun, wacky, wild, I would say at least 3 turnovers between the two teams, a bunch of weird, crazy plays. You probably pull half of your hair out in your apartment watching this game, Jake, but the Bengals find a way to get it done 38-34.
The last time you projected a score where both teams were in the 30s, the Bengals blew out the Raiders.
Yeah.
So let's get one of those again. I don't.
AFC West team too, so you never know.
It'll be interesting to see if the scores get that high. The Bengals, the only game the Bengals have played that's gotten two teams in the 30s was the Jets game, right?
Yep.
I
And they're
think,
not facing Mike White.
yeah, it's a much worse quarterback, obviously.
Much worse.
Man, we should probably stop this podcast
You
before.
should.
Yeah, I think that's it. James thinks the Bengals win by 4. I don't know if it's going to be quite that crazy, but hey, sign me up for a fun game. You know, it's
Touchdown.
it's the first half. It seems like the Bengals games and Jets game aside, I know we just talked about it where it got away from them at the end. They if they can win the first half, they're this team that's built to finish games. And hopefully they put themselves in the position to do so against the visiting Justin Herbert Los Angeles Chargers. We'll be back on Sunday after the game with takeaways, a recap, and hopefully a Bengals win. Until then, Bengals fans, hoo day and have a good one.